Hey, welcome to this video on the voxel modeling, the Boolean voxel modeling inside 3ds Max. So I did a video the other week, and it was a quick conceptual piece. It was this piece right here actually that I did for the video. It's a bit of a speed art, and I've had some requests just to expand a little bit on the Boolean operation, the voxel modeling inside of 3ds Max. So that's what I'm essentially going to do in this video. It's an interesting tool. We'll jump into it. So if we grab this, we will hide selected. I'm going to just jump over to the box. Let's create a cube, and I think we're sort of ready to go from there. I'll zoom, or I'll grab this and we'll just zero it out to the world space just so we can see what's going on. And yeah, I'll just put a PBR material. So let's just drag a quick PBR on this. I always like to just change the base color a little bit on here. So let's give it a bit like a bluish tint, something a bit darker. Click OK. Maybe a bit lighter than that, so about there. That should be all right. And then give it a bit of metallic, a little bit of roughness, something like that. Just so we can see sort of the hard surface stuff a little bit better. All right, so we got this set up, and let's jump into it. So we don't need to do really much to prep this up. We can just do the sort of Boolean operation directly onto the parameter settings here without actually putting an edit poly on. So we can just grab that, and then what you're going to want to do is just come down to options, and you can change method, and you can use OpenVDB. So that's the voxel mesh. So if I click F4 should I say, you'll see that it divides it up. So we've got a cube, and it's just divided it up into equally divided that. And created a bunch of voxels or the mesh type at least. What we can do is we can bring in a sort of box here. So I'll just use the auto grid feature. I'm not going to be too precious with this one. It's not the aims here are not to be are not to create anything in particular. We just want to go over the tool and its features. So we've got this, and then you'll notice between the mesh and the open VDB mesh, that you get a reduction in operations that you can do. Okay, so not every operation is going to be here. So the first one is the union. That will unify the mesh, and you can actually update these. So if I select our box here and I click the manipulate button, you'll see, whoops, or you should see at least if I grab it and it moves. Let's see, why is that not moving? Let's get off my selection mode here, and let's see, is it might be, no. Oh, I tell a lie, you can't move it. Let's just grab that. You should be able to Boolean operations, grab that. Got a reference point. There we go. I don't know what I clicked then, but it weren't working. Trust 3ds Max to do that during a video. But there we go, and you can actually see it is pretty cool the way it works. You can move this about, and you can sort of see it subdividing, and it's attaching this on. It's updating the mesh in sort of real time and stuff. So it is actually yeah, it's quite cool. And for your hard surface artists, I mean, this stuff, it should be popping out a little bit, like, wow, this is quite an interesting tool to use. These other features, well, you've got the intersect as well. So if we just deselect that actually, and we just come down here, you've got the intersect as well. So that's going to give you, whatever is sort of left there. It's got a good visual indicator, I think, as well, for these sorts of tools, like to use them and stuff. And you can rotate and things like that, so you can get like these really sort of nice angles. I'll speak a little bit about the resolution in a moment's time, but you can get these really nice sort of angles and cuts and things, which is pretty cool. Then obviously we've got the subtract operation as well. So I'll just drop it down in the menu, and you can sort of see here where we can subtract something from the mesh itself, which is you know, for the hard surface and the hard surface workflow, this is quite common in sense, like, you know, you build up your mesh, you reduce it down, and you know, you put in your cuts and things like that. I have experimented with it. You know, I've done a lot of cuts in here. It seems to handle them pretty well. Okay, so, you know, I didn't get too many causes for concern while I was sort of messing around with this the other week. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much we can actually push it. So we'll just do a subtract here as well for this one. Oops, I've not got it connected, and we should be able to move that in place as well. So we can sort of get that as well, and it gives you the points here. So you got the points to select each of these on the mesh there. So you can see I can actually move, and you know, you can give these a bit of a scale as well. So let's just maybe grab that one. I think I might have this one. There we go. So I can sort of do that, and you know, it's really good. I mean, if you look at that now, I mean, you know, trying to block that out or model that as sort of like a conceptual piece, you know, you've got a really good sort of workflow to it. We'll do a few more cuts. Other ways that you might want to work with it as well, you know, let's try a different shape actually. So, you know, different ways that you might want to work with this is essentially, at the moment, you know, it's dividing these edges. Some of them, they look a little bit soft. This is the default setting. So the default setting on it is the voxel sort of mesh size here. So it's set to 1 centimeters, which is the standard for my sort of setup here machine. I've not messed around with the unit setup or anything. If you increase this, you'll see you'll get a reduction in the amount of voxels that are applied, or the mesh density is probably a better word. So the mesh density is, or word should I say, to reply. And then, you know, if we do scale this right down, you'll see back to 1. You can go like, you know, 0.5, and this goes super dense. But you can see you can get like some really nice sort of cuts on there and stuff, and control that edge flow. Now it does fall down a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. So we'll have a look at the sphere, just being, you know, just quite raw. So we'll do the sphere. Where do we want to put it? I don't know, we'll put it here. So we'll do the sphere quite raw. So let's do a subtract, and you can sort of see there where the low resolution on the sphere has caused some slight issues. And it's actually modeled them in, so you can actually see it's attempted to model that area in. So, you know, what you would do is, if we just use Control Z, go back, I'm just going to click on the canvas just to select out of here. Let's grab this. Yeah, I think you've got to kind of up the polycounts on it to get like a smooth result. So if we jump in, we've got chop, slice, smooth, right? Okay, cool. And then we just get that gone. You should see you get a slightly more smooth result. One of the things that you will notice as well, not every single edge in here is sort of super sort of you know, smooth like these edges. I think it's just the way that it sort of subdivides these in terms of the shape and size, and what you've got in, sort of what you're putting into it as well, and how it calculates it. You can attempt, you know, to bring this down even more. So if we get the voxel size and bring it to like 0.2, that's going to be very, very fine. But even then, you still got those sort of jaggedy little bits on the edge there. So perhaps it's not the best in that respect. Possibly it's got a little bit to go, you know, when compared to deformation settings and the polish in ZBrush. It has got a bit of a way to go in that respect, because you can get in the ZBrush, you can get these like super clean and smooth. So it's something to keep an eye out. Hopefully they sort of fix it in the coming builds. I mean, I don't know when this come out. I don't know whether it was 23, 24. Might been a bit before then actually. So I'm not quite sure when the tool came out, and how long it's been in here. One thing to do though is keep an eye on the updates for the tool. You know, so just be looking around and just seeing if there's actually any updates on it, if they've put anything in. That might be quite interesting. If you're a dev, you could always try and you know, optimize the tool even more, or introduce maybe modifiers that help detect those points in those corners. So there's plenty of options with it. Do you know what I mean? There's quite a lot of options and stuff. Okay, so we've got some interesting cuts. Other things that you can do is you can still model here. I mean, I've been using just blocks, but you know, you can customize these shapes a little bit as well. So if we grab, say, this shape here, you know, what we'll do is we create an instance. Okay, let's just set this in here just for now, so I can just show you. And then what you can do is we'll subtract this here, and say, you know, again, this is one of its strengths in terms of its features, is your ability to be able to sort of model changes into the features themselves. So if we use shift and just extrude that, you can see that it's applying those updates in real time, which is, it's quite yeah, it's quite good, you know. So you can get like these really sort of nice cuts and stuff, and you can create these editable cuts. And again, if you're thinking about, you know, the use of this tool, for me, I see it more as a conceptual aid, or certainly earlier block out form. So it's quite nice in that respect, that, you know, you can change these and you can get them sort of tweaked on the fly. So we'll have a look at the sharpness of the cut here, so you can sort of see that's quite dense, but it's not done a bad job there of connecting, you know, those areas up and just tweaking that through the instance itself. Any of these you can sort of go back and edit. So, you know, you can sort of change this, you know, put it as a union, and it'll attempt to sort of unify this. You know, you can do it as a section like this, where it just chops the block out and intersects, and then you know, you subtract as well. So it doesn't matter how many you seem to have on here. It does quite a good job of letting you sort of go through and pick and select each area and stuff. You can also select these as well, and you know, you can actually cut them out as well. So if you didn't want certain pieces on there, you know, you've got things sort of in the wrong place, you can sort of come in and, you know, you can remove them. You can untick them as well. So if you have got a feature that you don't particularly like, or you're concepting a feature, you know, you can remove them, and it's pretty good. It's quite helpful to get some of the angles as well, you know, for the hard surface stuff, like the 45 degree angles and that. You know, you can just grab these. Let's put a chamfer on. Oops, I keep that there. Let's do, should be like 45. Got a tool now created. Just drop that down. Let's grab this. And then again, all you need to do is just move it into that position. Sort of here, maybe. And then we could just use the subtract. So if we just lower that, subtract, grab it, and there you go. You got like that nice sort of sharp angle that you're probably going for a little bit more in the hard surface kind of stuff. It works okay with symmetry if you put symmetry on it. I mean, it's not. I did it the other week, and you know, I got some sort of issues down the center here. So you might want to just turn off the weld for it, but you can sort of see here where it's putting in this really fine line in the center. But the symmetry is not too bad, you know. You can see there with the shading and stuff. I'd say when you're using it, if you are concepting this for hard surface, you know, make sure you're just checking that sort of highlights on there, just seeing if you get any errors or anything like that. And again, you know, we can, with that symmetry on now, it's a little bit more intuitive. It feels a little bit quicker and a little bit better. So again, you can come back to the Boolean operation, you know, hit the subtract. It's going to apply on the other side, and you know, you can update this as you sort of go along. But yeah, I mean, overall, I do like it. I think it's a nice addition to 3D Max. Does it blow ZBrush out the water? No, it doesn't. I think it's still got a long way to go at present. However, I do think for some studios who are using 3ds Max in their pipeline, it gives them a great tool without the addition of ZBrush, or that need for ZBrush in some respects. You know, you've got to think in terms of like indie studios and things like that. They don't necessarily have you know, massive amounts of funds to buy a lot of the software, and if there's, you know, prescribed pipelines that require ZBrush, possibly Fusion 360, 3ds Max, you're less likely to maybe find that. What they'd have is probably a more bespoke set of software that they use, so they might utilize 3ds Max a little bit more. So if you find yourself in that situation, you know, without ZBrush or the reduction of it, or there's non-use of it in there, yeah, it might be a tool that's of use in that respect, maybe in some of the smaller studios at least that are utilizing 3ds Max. Yeah, other things as well with it, you know, if we just get here, I'll just try and create something, it's auto saving. But other things with it, with the tool, is what I would say is I do feel it's more of a conceptual tool. It's not something you can produce a sort of clean mesh off. I mean, we'll try it in a minute. It's certainly more geared towards that high poly sort of function, but I don't believe it's great in terms of getting the you know, remeshing and gamifying. I think you're going to have to do a little bit of work with it to get it into a suitable sort of standard, or at a suitable standard at least, you know, for a game mesh and functional, because I mean that is a lot of density within a small screen space. So you know, if you imagine this tool, and you know, you try and reduce that with some of the retop tools, which we'll try in a moment, it can be a bit tricky, and I don't think the results are that good. So there's different obviously approaches that you might want to take, but yeah, we're getting somewhere with this now. It's starting to look pretty good. There's different approaches that you might want to take with it, and what you might want to sort of do with it, you know, but again, it all comes down to let's grab the manipulation points here. So which one do I want? I want that one. So yeah, these sort of different sort of features. You can notice here as well, there's a little bit of lag with that. What I would say is with the tool is switch between the lower and sort of high res values. So if you know you're going to be moving stuff around, just reduce it down, and just push this about, you know, till you roughly get, you know, what you're looking for, and it just helps it sort of load and things like that. If you start doing it, maybe you might have a better computer than me. I mean, my computer, you know, it's getting a bit dated now, so you know, doing that, and then what I would suggest is maybe just lowering it down and just double checking really whether, you know, you've got the sort of thing that you wanted in there. So you can sort of see here now, I've not put it too reduced, which is why we're getting these sort of artifacts in here. So if we put that mesh on, you can sort of see, yeah, there's a few issues, you know, with it. It's not perfect. But yeah, I mean, you can keep going. It's really fun. You know, have a go at, you know, combining the different operation types as well. So you know, we can grab this piece here, and perhaps, you know, you want this to be sort of like part of the geometry itself. You know, perhaps it's a cast metal section or something like that. So we'll just get this. Let's do just a little inset, and we'll just bring that up. I think this is far enough across, so the symmetry will take to it. And again, what we can do, just jump into our operations, and we can just give that a union, and you can see there where, you know, it adds it to it. And just to check what it's like, you know, we can drop that down again to 0.2. It does give you a warning. I have tried a little bit lower. I did try to go lower on my system, but it does pop up with a warning about sort of like potential issues with it, as it gets really dense, the mesh types. But if you're feeling brave and you've got a good system and it kind of works for you, you know, give it a go. See what you can do. But don't be posting on my comments, you know, your CPU's blew up and it's you know, you weren't warned. So just keep that in mind for it. But yeah, let's see. I just want to grab this point a little bit and possibly just bring it down a section. I'll bring it down a little bit. Maybe that's a bit too far. It's about there. I did say I weren't going to model anything. I'm getting a bit carried away now, like modeling stuff. So what we'll do is we'll reduce this sort of down. Let's do 0.2 and get that nice hard edge on there, and then we'll have a look at the sort of retop tools and the effects of the retop. So, you know, I think in terms of its concepting and your ability to concept and change this on the fly and update it without having to worry so much about the impact of the cuts on the mesh. So sometimes when you do the cuts on the lower mesh, you know, the faces flip and the normals and stuff, and you got to put extra points in. It sort of eliminates a lot of that, which is pretty cool. And you know, you can't get, you know, there's no getting around that. I think that is pretty cool, and it's one of the advantages of it. The other thing is that ability to change on the fly. You know, you can actually, if we grab a point here, so I think it's this point, let's just reduce this down again, and if you hold shift, I can actually copy that across in the stack, and then what I can do is just reduce that back down, get a nice sort of value to that, and you can see there where, you know, I've reduced that, managed to reduce that, and reduce it down and copy that detail across, which is pretty cool. However, you know, if you look at this now, it's 0.2. Again, that's a lot of density in that area. So your next step would be possibly, if this was approved, if the concept was approved, and you're like, yeah, you know, this is good, you know, we like this, let's put it into production, or move it down the production pipeline, you'd have to try and retop it. Now, the retop tools, I have tried a few of these, and again, if you found a better way of doing this, then leave a comment, let me know about it, let the viewers know, so we can improve and sort of build to, you know, grow together, sort of thing. So if we do, I'm just going to pop the retop on top of the Symmetry, and what we can do is do I want it on top of the Symmetry? Yeah, we'll do it on top. So with that now, we should be able to just compute. I'll leave it at its default settings. You can see that it's running and we'll see what we get. So you can see here, this is sort of the low poly. It does an alright job, but I think this is more, it's sort of more organic in its shape and what the results that it gives you. Now you have got the divisions here that you can sort of play with. You know, you can turn off the smoothing groups and maybe try by angle as well. So you could try and compute it that way. You can also increase the polycounts as well for it. So don't forget, you can actually increase those polycounts. Another thing that you could try to do is maybe pop an edit poly modifier on, delete half the mesh, which is something we'll try now, or we'll give it a slice. So you can see there where it's not really liked, it's like that. So what I'll do is, let's get off the Symmetry for now. We'll put a slice modifier on. I'm gonna just slice that. Let's see, is that the correct way? Nope. I want the X. There we go. So we're going to slice that, and what we'll do is we will remove the positive. There we go. So we've got, you know, reducing that mesh down, and then what we can do is add that retop and just see if we get any better results. So it's a lot more condensed. There's a bit less for it to do in the sense of matching these up in its scale. It does it a little bit better. I mean, it's still getting some issues. Let's crank this up to about, you know, we'll do a 10K or something and see what we get. So this one's with the auto smooth, and again, I've not changed the quad tolerance or the subdivisional levels or anything. The sub levels are just the mesh when it's divided anyway. So yeah, it's not bad. It's still quite, you know, it's still quite not as clean. You can sort of see here, but it's not that clean. And to be honest, would you get away with that? Not really. So, you know, you could, I mean, if you were going to crank this up, if it was for a game, you know, having that many polygons in a piece like that is just not justifiable. I mean, even in a film, if you zoom out there, that's so many. So even for an animated film. So the retop tools have perhaps got a little bit to go inside of here, but, you know, often what I would say is maybe a good old manual retop of a tool. So, you know, retopping it. And that is one of the ways that I see this possibly working in a pipeline, where you could produce quick conceptual pieces that you could adapt and change as and when you needed. And once those adaptations have taken place and you're ready to move on to the next stage of production, you could move on and then retop and, you know, sort of gamify it in some respects, if that's a correct word. But, you know, you could make it game ready to put it into a computer engine, or perhaps modify it so it's better on the sort of renders and the frame rates and stuff inside of Max. Because the last thing you want to do is be in a scene and having, you know, if this is a small mechanical piece in a scene and you've got a few of these scattered about in there, it's going to really add to your render time and your image build time, and that's something, you know, you want to kind of avoid really and get down. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting tool. It's got a lot of different features to it. I'd be interested to see hear your thoughts on it, and you know, if you've produced anything with it, any concepts it. I'd also be interested to see where you see it in a pipeline in terms of 3ds Max and stuff. I mean, I still think ZBrush is for sculpting, it's unbelievable. But this is definitely a little bit of a step in the right direction for Max to include stuff like this. Again, I'm not sure when it came. I think it was, I've got 23 in my head. It could have been earlier. You know, so I've not seen too much on it, but I definitely think in terms of a pipeline and being creative, especially if you're following along the creative challenges, you know, it's quite a nice tool just to mess around with and play around with. So again, if you use it in a different way, if you've got any different ideas on what you might do with it, yeah, drop a comment below. If there's a better way to retop it as well, you know, we've only touched on the retop in here. There is different sort of algorithms in there as well. So if you've got ideas on different ways to retop it, that would be great to hear from you guys as well. In addition to that, yeah, I think that's about it. That wraps up the video for us. As always, you know, I'll see you in the next video, or I'll hear from you in the comments. So let us know what you think of it, and yeah, bye bye for now.